Okay. I think we are all set. Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we continued working on making it easier to add currencies to TitanBar. After returning to the maintenance file, we addressed redundancies with tooltips. And today we're going to do something completely different. We're going to switch over to the Festival Buddy 2 plugin because the Midsummer Festival is coming up. And we have some French and German strings to incorporate for Hobnanigans, and we recently got some improved strings from Telerian, and so we're going to be looking at Festival Buddy and hopefully doing a release of that if all goes well today. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions, and in the meantime, let's go ahead and get my desktop sharing here. Okay, so we just had Hobnanigans. That was from the 30th to the early hours of the 3rd. And today is the 4th, and Midsummer Festival begins on Thursday the 6th, and will go through the 26th. So that means here on our Tuesday stream channel of Little Redhead, followed by myself, we are going to have the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th, where we can be actively talking about Midsummer stuff. I don't know how much of that I'll actually be doing with Festival Buddy, given that the plugin seems to be pretty feature complete for Midsummer. But we'll at least give it a run through once next Tuesday, make sure everyone knows about the how to use the quick guide feature and answer any questions regarding that. Make sure they didn't change anything in the background and that everything still works. Okay, anything else interesting on the near calendar? I do not think so, so I'm going to go ahead and close that down. But I will go ahead and try to get MooBot to put a link to it. There we go. Exclamation point event. That doesn't even give the link that I was going for, though. We'll put that in there as well. Okay. So, that being said, here we are in Minas Tirith, here we are in Helm's Deep, looking at the Festival Buddy plugin. So, I've gone ahead and moved all of the other plugins out. We only have the Festival Buddy plugin, and if you're not familiar with it, this is a plugin designed to help you with festivals. There's a list of festivals in here, and one of the ones that is in here is Hobnanigans, which just happened. Now, because Hobnanigans isn't open, it's going to be hard to show you this in a live game, but we do have a debug feature in Festival Buddy. If that flag is turned on, it allows us to do things like simulate a game of Hobnanigans, and that's what we'll be able to do here just to demonstrate what's going on. So, Hobnanigans, you have to pick up a quest on a field, and that enables you to pick up a broom. Jindar says, hello, hello! So, for instance, let's say we're going to start on field 2. We have picked up the quest, and I told it I had just picked up the Flying Feathers quest, so we're waiting to get a broom. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's just waiting for the game to start, I think. So, game 2, start. Okay, I'm playing for Flying Feathers, and the 10-minute timer is running. Okay, the Flying Feathers on field 2 have scored. Hooray! Now, the Steelbeaks have scored. Woo! And now the Flying Feathers score a couple more times. Hooray. So that's the basic idea, is just to give you a scoreboard. One of the things I like about Hobnanigans is it does give you a sense of who is winning, but it doesn't tell you what your score is, just which team is ahead, and if it's within a few points, how many you are ahead by. I know that's all that really matters. You're 2 points ahead, you're 1 point behind, but it's kind of nice to see those scores rack up in an active game of Hobnanigans. We also have the debug ability to go ahead and advance time to specific spots. At the 6-minute point, we go ahead and get a new skill in Hobnanigans, and so we want to know when that's going to happen so we can best prepare for it. At 2 minutes, we get our third and final skill, and the game ends then when the 10-minute timer runs out. And it can be nice to know when those last couple seconds are ticking down as well. When that's done, the game of Hobnanigans is complete and this whole thing needs to be started again by picking up another quest. Perhaps next time I'm on field 3 playing for the Steelbeaks. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I hit stop. My bad. start. That's true. If you drop the quest, it will go ahead and say that you're not attached to anything. So that is also good. So, 2 questions in chat. Jinjar says, is there a plugin for text to voice out there anywhere? I know some people have expressed interest in trying to make that kind of thing work, or text to translated text for better support for languages that aren't explicitly supported, like English, French, and German. I don't know the status of any of them. I just know people have expressed interest. But it's a very challenging idea. So I know people are interested in trying it out, but I don't know where they are on that. In chat asks, for someone who hasn't used plugins, where do they get them, and are they open source or all from LOTRO? So plugins exist in a gray space where plugins, the ability to use plugins is officially supported by LOTRO. In-game, if you use this little caret menu down here on the bottom left of your toolbar and go to System, there is a Plugin Manager option. It just closes the window that I had open. There's a Plugin Manager option, and that's going to open a window which is baked into the game, which shows you which plugins are listed. However, LOTRO does not support any plugins from the community. So if you have a problem with your game, one of the first things community support is going to ask you to do is disable all of your plugins and then see if you still have that same problem. And if you don't, if the problem is with a plugin, they're hands off. They're not in the business of supporting the community's plugins. So all the plugins come from the community, and a lot of them can be found at that link that I just put into chat there, which is lotrointerface.com. I'm going to pull that up on the window here. Where is my links for later? There we go. Okay, so, sure. On lotrointerface.com, you're going to find a list of plugins in various places. You can go to the downloads section, and under LOTRO, you can find various various lists of plugins, including the standalone plugins, which is where I find most of my plugins. And under that, a lot of them are under Other, but if you're looking for specific things like a plugin for Creeplay or a plugin for bags, you might find it there. There are some recommended plugins, or at least plugins that a lot of the streamers tend to use here that are listed in chat there. So for instance, if you are someone who really enjoys completing deeds and you want to know which deeds are still left for you to complete, you might look at the deed tracker. If you are looking at organizing all of your various travel skills, you might look at the travel window too. Over here on LOTRO interface, if I wanted to go ahead and install one of these, for instance, if I wanted to install Travel Window, I would do a search for it. There's been a lot of travel windows over the years, so I would just go ahead and sort by date to find the most recent thing. And we can see Travel Window 2 by Hyos. Excellent. We're going to go ahead and download this. Oh, advertisements. Why are you bothering me? Maybe because I'm not logged in. I am logged in. So we've just gone ahead and downloaded a zip file for Travel Window 2. Now, every plugin out there is going to have an installation step in its description. In this one, this is a full plugin and can be installed standalone. Awesome. Follow the general plugin installation instructions to install Travel Window 2 or update the install. I recommend you install and manage your plugins with the LOTRO plugin compendium found at this URL. We'll talk about that in a moment, but if you want to do it manually, we'll go ahead and take a look at this file. So we have a zip file, travel window 231.zip. We're going to go ahead and extract that. And that gives us a folder, Travel Window 2. In this, we can see some files. So what we want to do is we want to take this folder, Travel Window 2, and put it into our Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins folder. if you do not have a plugins folder, if this is a fresh installation of Lord of the Rings Online, you won't have a plugins folder, just go ahead and make one. Just make sure you spell it correctly, because LOTRO is looking for a very specific way of spelling plugins, and then drag this on over. So we're going to go ahead and move that to here. And now I have Cube plugins and travel window 2. Fantastic. If I go back into the plugin manager, nothing has changed because LOTRO is not actively scanning that directory. But we can request it to refresh its list with this little green arrow button. We click that and we can see we have travel window 2. Fantastic. So at that point, if we want to run the plugin just for right now, we can click load. And oftentimes plugins will go ahead and come into play with some sort of a button. In this case, it looks like a little suitcase. And usually you can either just drag that button around, or maybe you'll have to press Shift or Control to drag it around. There's not as much of a standard there for the plugins. And we can see we now have a travel window. If I check my own train skills, and then I resize it, we can see this character has a fair number of travel skills. Some of them are milestones, and some of them are return to skills that I've acquired from reputation or bartering. That's how to download and install a plugin manually. However, that's a lot of effort to put into, and so there is the LOTRO plugin compendium that community member Lunar Water put together, and this is a standalone program that runs on your computer, and you can use it to install new plugins. So if I go add new plugins and I type in travel window 2 and I click it and I click add, it is done. And that's that. So your choice, whether you do it manually or whether you use a tool like LOTRO Plugin Compendium, but either way, getting a plugin onto your system seems very approachable once you have a template to follow. The first plugin or two that I installed way back when, I was very much like, I don't know what I'm doing, I hope this is right. So a tool like LOTRO Plugin Compendium can help smooth the way there. All right, so Ink in chat, let me know if that answers the first question of where do you get them from. In chat, Ginger said someone was asking if there was a plugin for taking quest to text to voice. So one of the problems, I should say there are a couple problems let me rephrase. There are a couple of challenges for someone who's looking to make a plugin to do text to voice. The first thing is plugins cannot by themselves make audio play. So if you had the text for a quest and you wanted to produce that either text to voice or just have someone recorded saying it, either way, a plugin can't by itself make it happen. It can't make that voice speak. However, there are ways around that. Another problem is plugins do not currently know how you are interacting with an NPC. So if you click on an NPC, we can know that your target has changed. Oh, these aren't clickable. That's sad. If you click on an NPC, we can know that your target has changed. But we can't know from a plugin perspective that you've opened up a dialogue and that you've selected a quest or that you're advancing a quest. So where you are in the middle of accepting or progressing a quest is kind of opaque. So a plugin could tell this hypothetical text-to-voice assistance device, hey, we're talking to Theodred. But it might have a hard time of nailing down which of Theodred's dialogues to use. Or we're talking to Gandalf. Cool, Gandalf has like 70 million quest dialogues in this game, so which one? Now, a plugin could do a little bit better than that because it knows where you are and what level you are, so it could kind of narrow down what some of those options are. But we lack transparency into what's in that window that's up on the screen. So there may be ways around it. So for instance, when you talk to someone, we could be like, okay, well, you're level 84. Here's a list of things between level 77 and level 91 that could be it. Just click the one and we'll start doing text to voice on that. So it wouldn't be a turnkey solution, but there's possibilities there. Okay. Ink in chat leads to another question. Sorry for being a pest. You're not a pest. This is what we're here for. You said they're a community. Are they safe? Check for viruses when loaded. So I think there's some answering here in chat as well, but these are all plugins are made out of Lua script files, and Lua is a scripting language, and these are loaded by the Lua 5.1 engine that is baked into Lord of the Rings Online. So the engine that is baked in is a subset of the actual Lua 5.1. So specific things have been removed or restricted in what we can do. So there's no network access. You can't access arbitrary files on the system, that kind of thing. So it's a limited subset of what the full Lua 5.1 can do. So in the sense of, could there be viruses in a plugin? You could definitely have code in a plugin that does not behave nicely. And while it's a very rare occurrence, it is possible to make plugins misbehave to the point where they might cause the LOTRO client to close, crashing, or otherwise deciding, nope, now it's not good to continue running. However, when you come back up in the LOTRO client after you've logged into a server, you can go to the plugin manager on that character selection page and deactivate any or all plugins before they've had a chance to be loaded. So if there was a misbehaving plugin, either accidentally or maliciously, you can go and disable that plugin from running again before relogging into a character. So if it did cause problems, it's not going to be able to cause problems every time unless you let it. Can plugins behave badly either accidentally or intentionally? Yes, but in a constrained manner. The worst case, and it is kind of a worst case, is the client crashes. Another vulnerability in the sense is that all plugins have equal permission to read and write to all of the plugin files out there. So a badly behaved plugin could overwrite your saved plugin data file for another plugin. I think that's really it. Plugins could maybe mess with another plugin in memory if they really tried to, if you put them in the same apartment. It's kind of a limit to what plugins can do because they are in such of a sandbox within the Lord of the Rings Online environment. That being said, in general, there's a lot of community feedback on these things where people are saying, oh, this is a really fun, good plugin, oh, this plugin is terrible. And I don't imagine a malicious plugin would stick around for very long without people being like, oh no, this is terrible. A nice thing about the plugin compendium is because there's an actual human behind what things show up in this list. Plugins that are badly behaved or plugins that are malformed in some way are likely to get removed from this list pretty quickly. And so if you're installing through something like this, you can be, not guaranteed, but there's a reasonable expectation that the plugins in here are going to be pretty well behaved. Bug-free? Maybe not. Writing bug-free plugins is difficult, but non-malicious. And that's kind of the goal. Okay. Yeah, Tellurian emphasizes that plugins running within LOTRO can read or write .plugin data files that are in your plugin data directory. Tellurian calls out the screenshot directory, and for me that's documents, Lord of the Rings Online, and plugin data. So plugins can access specifically named files within here. Within this folder, there's going to be a folder listed with your account name. And then underneath that, there'll be an all servers folder and then one folder for each server. And within that, there'll be .plugin data files. And plugins can only read or write .plugin datas that are in these specific locations. Any file that is not .plugin data or any file that is outside of these areas is not accessible. Actually, I say the .plugin. I'm reasonably confident we don't have a choice about that. Plugin data. Yeah, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. I'm like, there's a virus scanner that would understand the LOTRO plugin environment. Yeah, so if LOTRO allows a plugin to do something that is outside of the scope of what we've already discussed, like if a plugin is able to make a network connection, or if a plugin is able to modify some file in some other place, that is a flaw in how LOTRO does plugins. And I wouldn't expect a virus scanner to detect that. I would expect LOTRO to restrict that behavior. Arthur says, plugins can read image files under the resources subfolder of the plugin directory. I think plugins can probably access image files anywhere underneath their plugin directory, yeah? I haven't actually tried. I know everyone uses resources, but I didn't think that was baked into LOTRO being... I didn't think that was LOTRO specifically saying you can only access resources, but I don't know. I just followed the convention because it's nice to put your resources somewhere. Zeus says, hello, how do you like LOTRO? I like it a lot. I like it a lot for a couple of reasons. First, as I joked earlier, I think it's the best Lord of the Rings themed MMO available to play, which is a bit of a joke because currently it's the only Lord of the Rings themed MMO to play. Although certainly most fantasy genre MMOs are going to owe a lot of history and lineage to Lord of the Rings in general, but they'll deviate more or less from that. But yeah, I really enjoy the pace of the game. I enjoy, compared to what I've heard people say about some other free-to-play games, the free-to-play elements in Lord of the Rings do not feel that intrusive. Like, certainly you can pay real-world money for things like LOTRO points or Mithril coins, and you can then use those to make life a little bit easier within the game. But at no point do I feel like I have to do that in order to meaningfully interact with the game. And for me, as an entertainment thing, the monthly subscription amount for the VIP subscription, as they call it, feels much more affordable than, say, going to the movies, an extra time, or buying a board game, which I also buy plenty of board games. You may be able to see them on the shelf behind. One board game covers many months of a subscription for Lord of the Rings Online. So I find it's a good trade, and if you do the VIP subscription route, that unlocks some of the niceties in the game. You get swift travel between stable master points if it is available. You get some other stuff. You get the VIP subscribers package, which is a collection of niceties. And it's like maybe 8 currency per month. I only have experience with US dollars and euros for that, and they're pretty close to the same value, but about 8 monies per month seems like a pretty good value for the amount of fun that I get out of it. And Z says, I've been playing it on and off since 2008. Excellent. Yeah. I think it's neat that they've managed to continue to add to the game. I keep having hopes that they'll shower some more love on the LOTRO plugin on the server side of things, or on the client side of things. But it's impressive how much the community can get done, even with where the plugin API is right now. Speaking of which, let's look at what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about... I'm going to get rid of that travel window that I downloaded, though, before I forget. It's gone. That's closed. That's down. Cool. Okay, so Festival Buddy 2. Hobnanigans. We just showed what it's like to step through Hobnanigans, and the way this works is by looking at chat messages. When you pick up a quest, we can see that you've picked it up in chat. When you drop a quest, we can see that. When the game starts, we know that it starts because a referee says so. So, we have all the English versions of those strings. What we don't have so far are the French and German versions. So while Hobnanigans was going on, I parked a couple of characters next to the Hobnanigan fields, and I told the chat window to start capturing everything that came into chat. So that is the start logging feature of a chat window. To get to that, you right-click on the window, you go down to chat logging, and you can start logging. And every new entry that comes into that window will be written into a file in your Documents Lord of the Rings folder. what I'd like to also do at the same time is to hit capture chat. So I'll do capture chat and then I'll go and do start logging. So any existing messages I've already seen get written out to one file, and then capture chat goes into a second file. And so what I did for that is over on Laurelin, which is free to play. So I have some free to play characters that I have for this kind of thing. I logged in with an English client, a French client, and a German client, and sat them all basically on top of each other and did the capture chat and start logging for each of them, so, with timestamps, so that I can correlate when I get a certain message on the English chat, I should be able to find the exact message on the French and German chats. There's going to be some variability in the strings because the name of the referee is based off of the field. The field 3 referee, the field 4 referee, that kind of thing. The game hen has landed on the field might have, field 2 in the text as well. So having timestamps on means I can correlate those messages pretty effortlessly, I hope. And having parked there for a few hours while some other people were playing, and then I played to make sure that I could force certain messages to happen, like so-and-so, the Steelbeak scored, the Flying Feathers scored, make sure those messages got into chat, and then we'll be able to take a look at what those are. So let's go ahead and pull up our source here. And specifically, we're looking for Hobnanigans. Now, there's two parts to this. There's the Hobnanigans window, and then there are strings related to Hobnanigans. So let's just do a quick little search, Hobnanigan, and look for, to do, get French and German strings. Awesome, we're working on it. Thanks, past me. Okay. Not looking at that. Barter items. We're not going to look at that. That is pretty language independent and not what we're looking at today. All right, chat logger has some stuff. Globals just has a list of that. Okay. The Hobnanigans window has so many. We're going to shrink that down for just a minute. Images, that's going to be language independent. Also language independent. Hey, little one. There's a cat wandering around. Hey. Yeah. Okay. She's not a big fan of sitting on laps. Hey. Yeah. I know. I just put some lotion in my hands. You don't like that. Okay. Main win is probably not related. So, set parent, Hobnanigans. Just comparing stuff there. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. Options window. Ooh, let's assume that's not relevant right now. Quest strings, yes. Hobnanigans, nothing. Cool. And actual strings. This is where I think we're going to have a fair number of them. We have Hobnanigans itself. We have the announcements. There we go. This is a section that's desperately missing some strings. Looks like we have a German string, and we'll be able to compare that to what we already have. Anything else? Hobnanigans teams. Okay. That actually looks pretty complete. And more Hobnanigans text. That's for the window itself, I think. Field. Yeah, we might be able to extract some ideas there from the strings that we're going to be looking into. Okay. This, it doesn't matter, and this doesn't matter. So very cool. We're looking at these Hobnanigan announcements under strings. Great. We'll keep that open. Okay, tokens. Oh, actually, sorry, I just want to look at chat logger. That is okay. All of that's language independent. Tokens. Don't actually care too much about that or that. It's all language independent. Fantastic. Oh, I'm reminded of something completely unrelated that I wanted to do. Someone pointed out, could have been Delirian, that generic festivity tokens were not being shown correctly. I'm just going to duck in here and fix that while I'm thinking about it. So seasonal, we know that anniversary is going to have festivity tokens. Basically, anything that has a seasonal instance, I'm going to assume has festivity tokens as a part of it. Farmer's Fair. Farmer's Fair. True. Spring Festival. True. Awesome. And Yule Festival. True. If anyone has any knowledge of other uses of festivity tokens, let me know. Festivity token. I'm going to just actually pull up the wiki right now. At the end of any seasonal instance. That works. Now, do all these seasonal instances have that? Yes, Flurry, Boss from the Vault isn't necessarily relevant, but I think it is in there too. Spring and Yule. Yep, I feel pretty good about that. So we're going to go ahead and just commit that. Change right there. Now, anything else? We've got the... that's true for spring, Yule, anniversary, Farmer's Fair. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and just commit that change. To do. Awesome. And turned festivity tokens on for Yule, anniversary, and Farmer's Fair. Now that would imply that it's not on for Midsummer. Probably correct. Great. Okay. So, but tokens other than that are language independent. Fantastic. Image captions, description. Nope, none of that matters. Awesome. Study says, doing great work, man. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so we saw the strings file, tokens, I think we decided no, and maybe the Hobnanigans window, though I think there shouldn't be any strings in here, and we can kind of double check that by looking for quotes. All right, what's with the show Hobnanigans text function? Lots of disabled debug here. That's fine. Show Hobnanigans text. I'd like to know more about this. Show Hobnanigans text. So we get a text type, and if it's nil, then we're clearing it. Otherwise, we've set this. Oh, that status down below. Okay. Yeah, it's like need quest. That's the status. And we get it from other Hobnanigans text of the thing. Okay. So that's getting localized nicely. Cool. So I think right now we're going to focus just on the strings section of this, specifically the Hobnanigans announcements. And this is where we'll start digging through things. For that, let me go ahead and see if I can't find some relevant files. Steady Eddie says, I spent all day writing Lua yesterday for Third Age Total War mod, and your streams have been a great learning tool for me. Oh, thank you very much. Very kind words. I even found a good string interpolation library for Lua and figured out debugging. Thanks again. Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, and that's something I try to remember to remind people is that Lua is not specific to LOTRO. Lua is used for a number of different games as their scripting or plugin language. I believe the add-ins for World of Warcraft use Lua. I've heard other games as well. So yeah, If I ever am writing add-ons for another game that also uses Lua, I'm going to be able to take all this knowledge with me and then just figure out, okay, what's different about writing plugins here. So that's pretty cool. Okay. I am looking at some say captures, and I'm going to load up a couple of them off screen here and just make sure that they say what I think they say. All right. I captured some stuff from players who were not the ref on the field, and I just wanted to anonymize these a little bit by removing that those details. Okay, so some stuff that I have here. All right. And I want to do the same thing for, nope, not that. Cool. Now, problem is, I'm not actually finding the English versions of these, so I'm hoping... Oh, that could be some after midnight. Yes, okay. So I pulled up a couple of more. Awesome. I'm finding some French stuff now. So just a moment while I do the sanitization that I should have done earlier. Okay. So, some French. Awesome. And... oh, of course, I named the English one differently for reasons and stuff and things. So I do have the English ones as well. Okay, just a moment on those. Sanitizing. Fantastic. So, over here, and what I'm probably going to do is split these out into different windows, so I can have like the English window and the French window and the German window, and that'll hopefully make it a little bit easier to keep track of these things. Now what I'm concerned about is I didn't do the general chat, and that might come back to bite me. Because I'm only seeing things the referee says. I'm concerned that I didn't capture everything I needed. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and divide these up. I want the English to come on over here. Well, I am seeing a new game will begin as soon as, and that's promising. Okay, and then all these ones from Say should have renamed them to be language specific. Whoopsie. Okay, so this one is German. Also German. Yep, also German. And I missed the French one somehow. When I was navigating 3 different windows is a little tricky. Okay, so what we want to do is find strings that are in the code. For instance, new quest, well, we already have that, and quest failed. We might actually be able to get that from other places in here. Let's go ahead and search for failed. Sure, filter failed quests. How do I know if it's failed? Aha, failed quest string. There we go. Okay, so we know... Nope. We know from this what the basic format of a failed quest starts with. And so what we might be able to do is German equals something and French equals something. And we might be able to fill that in. Because we know what we're looking for is the appropriate word failed and then the name. So we know a game of Hobnanigans is replaced with eine Runde Hobnanigans. I assume that's a round of Hobnanigans. And we know the German is going to not be failed, but gescheitert. And then the rest of it is hopefully okay. However, we can see that the rest of it, they're using slightly different dashes. So we're going to just pull those in from above. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, I'm just going to steal the entire thing as the name of it. Cool. And then the other one, French, we know is going to start with failed. Ooh, but what else does it have? This would be a case where oh, that's funny. Is it failed in French as well? Maybe. But this is a case where we can just do this with any quest. And so what we're just going to go ahead and do is launch a French client. So let's go ahead and switch over to French. Yeah, I can make changes. Fantastic. Now, I don't actually know what my login is, so I'm just going to try again. There we go. Thank you. Sure, why not? So we're going to go ahead and log in with a French client and see what does it look like when you fail a quest. How do I fail a quest instead of abandoning a quest? The post. When delivering a post, if you drop it in the water, you are going to fail the quest. So let's go to Mickle Delving, pick up some mail, and then go get wet. Now, this may be hindered by the fact that this is an alt account on Laurelin who doesn't have much in the way of travel ability. But actually, it'll be probably even more limited by the fact that I can't read French. However, where are we? We are here. Festival grounds are over there. Do I even have a mount? Uncertain. I do have a mount. Fantastic. So we're going to come over here to Western Brie and see what we can do about that. Somewhere around here is a horse to Brie. There we go. Okay. So do I think Comte is where I'm going? Let's do it. There can be some fun piecing together of what is this thing in other languages. Yay! Fantastic. Actually, I shouldn't have dismounted there because, well, I bet I don't have the stock stable master. Nope, this one. I do have the stock. Oh, actually, that might actually be because Little Redhead was doing stuff. So, what is stock called in this? Also stock. Neat. Oh, that's interesting. What are you saying? I think you're saying I don't have a subscription. Is that where Dutch gets abonnement from? Wild. The word for subscription in Dutch is abonnement, and of course it sounds French. I should have realized that. Dutch picks up a lot of words from French, but I don't always recognize that that's what's going on. Oui, oui. Okay. Let's go ahead and pick up this satchel. That's a mailbox. Where's the nearest water? North of here. Fantastic. South of here, maybe, but I don't actually know that one. Tell your Nast, doesn't Little Doving also have... Yes, you're correct. There is water in that direction as well. North feels like a good direction for water. Fantastic. I can even see some of the marsh ahead. Though it is true that I'm not sure all of the marsh is below the waist of a wallet. Below the waist of a hobbit. So yeah, we're going to go over to the Little Delving and make use of their stream there, which I have certainly dropped my mail into numerous times. Actually, my bigger problem is I'll be running with the mail and I'll realize that the adventurer is standing just outside of town, and I have to drop the mail to go talk to the adventurer and then come back in. Okay, so what we want to do is go ahead and bring the window on over here. So we can see we got a new quest with those special spaces. So you got to make sure you copy and paste correctly out of chat to get those. Oh no! Failed! Now, how do I know for sure that that's what that says? I don't, but I am willing to go find out. So we can plug that into Google Translate and we get failure package for the crossroads. So that's a pretty compelling idea that
Échec, paquet pour le carrefour.
Échec, sure, means failure or failed. Oh yeah, Tillian points out running into hobbits will also fail. I didn't actually see any nosy hobbits, but I believe they exist. Cool. So we have exactly what we need for here, and in fact, that would suggest that the failure string above is not correct. So we could go ahead and put that in there to match these other ones. So we know that we begin with this. Well, that's completely the wrong window. We have that space, and then we have the name of the quest. Fantastic. And we know the quest looks like this. So we can go ahead and paste that on in and say this is the thing that tells us if we have failed a quest. Awesome. And if I didn't already have convinced myself that the German one is correct, and we can again do this with some testing, but I believe that's the way a German quest would be failed as well. And we could do the exact same thing. We could just load it up, in the German client instead and get confirmation. Or Tellurian could tell us that it looks right, and that's good enough for me. Okay, so we want the game hand has landed on the field. Begin play. Awesome. And it looks like we have escaped this dot here so that it is specifically a dot and not a wild card. Let's go ahead and find that. Game hand has landed on the field. Fantastic. So we have an example of this. This is a field 2 referee. And we're looking for this timestamp in one of the other windows as well. Wow, we are so not looking for it as a regular expression though. Oh, of course, we're not going to find it exactly that. We will need to look for 8, 29, 10. Oh, right. I do need to move forward in time because French was a problem. Of course. Okay. Game hand has landed on the field. So let's go ahead and come to one of the later one. There we go. So we can see at 10:29:41, we should see something very similar. Great. 29:41, awesome. We have a German version of it, and now we need... Oh, that's going to weird me out that the English version is not the first tab here. I'm going to keep on flipping back to it and finding that it's not. Okay. Nah, I messed it up. Oh well. Now English is the third. Good enough. Okay, so we have the 10:29:41, 10:29:41, 10:29:41. So we have the equivalent string in all three languages. Awesome. Let's go ahead and actually just hoist those in and comment them here. What are we looking for? Okay. Tellurian confirms the German message is gescheitert, which is what I've got. Nice. Okay. So one of the things I really like to do is to collect messages when you're trying to do a pattern match against something you expect to see in chat. Copy things out of chat, put them into code. Use these as this is what we're trying to get. This is a field 3 referee, so we do need to take into account that that could be 1, 2, 3, or 4 with a regular, I'm going to call it regular expression, a pattern matching Lua's version that's sort of like regular expressions. But this is what we're looking for. And we can see in the English, field 3 referee says, game hand is led on the field. And we've got that dot. We need to remember, because this is pattern matching, we can go ahead and say, no, that's not actually a wild card. That's specifically a period punctuation mark. And we can do the same thing. So we have an example of what we're doing. We want to go ahead and incorporate that for the other languages. So what is that going to look like? We're going to have a German equals something like this. But remember, we need to fix the feld to be 1 to 4, and we can go ahead and mark that period. Now, a period wildcard will match a period character, so this is just a nicety. In general, we specifically are looking for a period, so we don't need to let it be a wildcard. Z says, thanks for helping me see that some plugins are helpful. I'm never good with computer things. Well, you're very welcome. One of the things I really like about Lord of the Rings Online is that you can play from start to finish without needing any plugins at all. For me, plugins are all about offloading some mental effort. So I really like the Minstrel Buff plugin because I don't want to have to think about some of the things that are going on with the Minstrel that are time related. I just want it to tell me when something is going to wear out. I like the travel window plugin because I don't want to have to worry about separating my travel skills from everything else. I just want them in a little bucket somewhere, and that's great. I love the deed tracker plugin, which can remind me which deeds I have or have not done yet. So for me, if a plugin is useful for me, it's because it's offloading some part of the mental effort of playing Lord of the Rings Online, so I can spend more time appreciating the world that I'm exploring. Because I think it's a very pretty game and a lot of fun to play, especially when I can offload some of those little bits. Yes, or Agartha points out, you'll also see that referred to as cognitive load, that mental effort. What UI UX practitioners refer to as cognitive load. So that's where the sweet spot for me for plugins is. One of the ones I really like is the Buff Monitor, I think. I always get them confused. Let me pull that up actually a sec. But there's two of them. There's Buff Monitor and then there's Buff something else. Yeah, so Buff Monitor is the one that I really like. Buff Monitor is great because I enjoy having the different types of food active to give me a little bit of extra oomph in the game. But what I don't enjoy is having to remember which icons under my character are which foods and how much time they have left. And I don't want to hover my cursor over to get the tooltip or to tear the tooltips off or any of that. So for me, Buff Monitor is great. Agartha points out buff bars exist, and it does, and I've never had it slot in as easily into that specific niche of tell me these specific things that I have and how long there is left on them and which thing gave it to me in the first place. So for me, Buff Monitor is the sweet spot, and buff bars doesn't reduce that cognitive load enough for me to want to switch over to it. But for a lot of people, buff bars is the sweet spot. So that's the important thing is don't make, my advice is don't make using plugins more effort than it relieves, right? You want to incorporate a plugin when it makes your life easier. Okay, that being said, let's do the French string. The arbiter. I am the arbiter, I know the score. Okay, so the arbiter, and again we're going to use a pattern matching to recognize any of the four fields. And we're going to go ahead and squelch that wildcard to be a literal period, and everything else is great. So now we have strings for play has begun. Agartha says, biggest complaint about buff bars is that it enables all buffs/debuffs by default. I wish it had some recommended settings from which to choose. Yeah, if it had a pop-up at the beginning saying, hey, you're playing a minstrel, would you like some, to just set it up for some basic minstrel stuff? I think I would have been much more likely to onboard, but as it was, a little intimidating when I pulled it up, and because I didn't immediately see how to do what I wanted it to do compared to Buff Monitor, it didn't draw me over. And I had already seen Buff Monitor and the Buff Monitor with quick slots a patch that Thurlor had done. And so I had already integrated that into my workflow of, I have little blue bars tracking specific things and good enough for me, right? So actually, for those who are curious, nope. Where did we go? I'm just going to go ahead and install that real fast. Add new plugins. Buff Monitor. Great. Add that. Well, that's not the window I wanted in. So Buff Monitor, when we pull it up, also has a little bit of an intimidation to it. It feels like to me because you do have to do some setting up of it. So where did it show up, if anywhere? New window. I'm not sure. But we're going to call this one test. New. All right. And somewhere in here is that test window. It's been so long since I've had to set this thing up, I have actually forgotten what's going on here. All right, well, I will not be showing that because I don't want to derail this too much. Where is that? Oh, that's so weird. All right, somewhere on here is a window called text. Oh, there's the new window. Ah, okay. So in this new window, and that's fine, I can go ahead and start adding some stuff. So if I want to add an effect called cooked food, I can do that. And then when I eat my cooked food, it's just going to show how long do I have left for it. Fantastic. All right, 15 minutes, and that blue bar is just going to shrink down, and that's all I really want out of this specific thing. So if I want to add a bar and I want to add in honey cakes, I can do that. I have to wait a second. If I want to add a bar and add in, say, hope, hope's a big one. That's awesome. Activate my hope token. Bam. I can say I've got 50 minutes left on this hope token. And then coming up here, I'll get the Bjorn's honey cake in a minute. Now this is a pattern matching string, so it's going to match on honey, but anything else that has the word honey in it, it can also match on. So if I wanted to be more specific, I could go ahead and edit this effect to be honey dashes are special in pattern matching, so you have to escape it with a percent symbol, and then cake. And that'll be fine, but it's a little ugly. Oh, I said it was going to be fine. Lowercase c. There we go. So once the effect is actually there, it won't show you that pattern matching string that you've asked for. But when the effect is not there, you will see that pattern matching string. So on my normal setup, I don't actually bother with the %-cake thing. I just say honey and leave it at that, and there's very few conflicts there. But it is matching against any of the effects that you have that might have that. One of the things I love putting on here is the swift feet effect, or whatever it's called, that you get when a hunter has their extra fast running speed on. And that's why I'm really good at noticing if Little Redhead has lost that effect, for maybe changed trait trees or died or whatever. You can be like, hey, feet, because I've got a blue bar that's not blue, it's just an empty bar. And when Little Redhead activates that ability, the bar is blue, and blue bars are good. Yeah, Tellurian, the leafy feet effect. I can never remember what it is, but I don't have to because this thing knows what it is, and I can just do, oh, swift feet or whatever. So that's, for me, I'm looking for a thing that shows blue bars or the lack thereof that I can make blue again, and it's great. And it's just exactly what I want to configure. And so the peculiarities of Buff Monitor work with the way I want to have this thing. And I just never got buff bars to do the same thing for me. Yeah, Little Redhead says, he just says, can our feet be faster, please? And I know what he's talking about. Yeah, I rarely actually use the name of the skill because what is here is the name of the effect. And oftentimes that's not necessarily the same. Like the name of this thing is Superior Venison with Pear Sauce, but the effect it gives me is Cooked Food. And so you're not putting the name of the skill or the item. You're putting the name of the title of that effect. And sometimes they're the same. Bjorn's original honey cake, I believe, is the exact same. Nope, that's the wrong one. Oh, even that. The effect is Bjorn's original honey cake, and the name of the item is Bjorn's honey cake. Go figure. But the effects and the items that cause them don't have to have the same name. They're just linked together. Cool, okay, so that is a different plugin that I quite like. I'm going to go ahead and unload everything so I can get a chance to reload Festival Buddy, because it's going to tell me if I have any syntax errors in what we've already done. Okay, so we have found the corresponding strings for each of these three things. And I'm going to leave the timestamps in there because that gives me confidence that they were all the same thing. And I know why those timestamps are like that. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one, which is referee says score. So we're going to take a look at that. First, in the English file, Flying Feathers score. Cool. Flying Feathers, and Steel Beaks. We want one of each of these. So I'm going to pull out a Steel Beaks score. I'm going to remember to put in a double dash for it to be a comment. And I'm going to pull out a Flying Feathers score. Awesome. Now I want the corresponding one for each of those from the other two languages. So we're going to come on in here and find the 102601. And I think this is when I was actively playing with someone to make sure that each of the teams got to score. And we want the 102634. I was like, hey, do you mind if I score for both teams for a little bit? They were nice. They just want to make sure that they won, and I get it. Those extra 10 Hobnanigan tokens are super nice. Okay, and then we're going to come in for the German as well. So we're getting that 102601. Awesome. And we're also going to get the 102634. I accidentally hit the page up, page down button. Okay, so now we have the things that we're trying to match here. And what we're trying to match is both the field number and also the name of the team. So, what we can assume, maybe, is that is the Flying Feathers. Oh, interesting. Okay, that is convincing the name, but apparently here I have used a different apostrophe. Now, why did I do that? Where is this used? Hobnanigan teams. Where is this used? Okay, names of the quests would also be good. Interesting. Z says, do you have a favorite epic volume? There's our epic volume 2 and epic volume 3. I have a problem when I play Lord of the Rings Online, in that I very frequently start playing a new character rather than finishing more stuff with an old character. So I haven't really progressed the content much beyond entering Mordor. I mean, I've gone beyond that, but not meaningfully, like not with a completionist. And one of the things I'm enjoying over on Treebeard server, which is where Affidil is that because it's a legendary server where content is released every 6 months, give or take, and we only just moved from the Helm's Deep expansion to the what is the name of the next expansion? LOTRO Wiki. Oh, awesome. Tellurian has just confirmed the German failure is exactly as expected. We just went from Helm's Deep towards Mordor, but actually I want to go to Legendary Server because that's a little bit more precise about what happens. Western, Central, and Eastern Gondor and the Siege of Minas Tirith. So we've just gotten that released on here. And for the next approximately 6 months, that's the maximum that we'll have available to us. And that's been really helpful with the whole trying to experience everything that there is to experience without getting pulled to other things. Yeah, Agatha says Mordor is the next expansion pack after Helm's Deep with a bunch of quest packs in between. And that's what I think we're seeing, is that on legendary servers, instead of just dropping everything between Helm's Deep and Mordor, they've broken it up into these 3 pieces. Western Gondor, central and eastern Gondor in the Siege of Minas Tirith. And then after that, Battle of Pelennor Fields, March of the King, and Battle of the Black Gate. And then after that, the Mordor and the conquest of Gorgoroth and all that, I assume. And then after that, we can go north. So, yeah, of the epic books that we've done so far, do I have a favorite? What an interesting question. Come to me, epic. So, I am a sucker for all things Khazad-dûm. I really enjoy the storyline, and I enjoy the environment. I really love wandering around in the halls, and how the three-dimensional nature of the mines is kind of expressed in more of a 2.5-dimensional manner that makes it a little bit more approachable gaming-wise, but still gives you the sense that this thing just keeps going down and down and down. And where you can understand, okay, yeah, they went really deep down here. And so anything that gets me into Moria or keeps me in Moria is probably going to be up there on my favorites. So yeah, definitely pretty much anything in Volume 2. Any excuse to run around in Moria, especially if I have a goat, is going to be up there in my what's really going to engage me. Partly, I enjoy navigating around Moria, and I have the benefit that I do not get lost in Moria nearly as much as some other people. And the more I do Moria, the more I learn little tricks about navigating around. There are certainly a few places that I don't spend as much time in, where I will go one direction and I should have gone another one. Like when I'm running around in Zelam Malek, there's all sorts of places where I'll be like, oh, I don't actually know how to navigate from here to the Red Horn Lodes until I get onto that one specific track that does it. Like I don't have a broader sense of the map. But most of the places, Nud Malek is great. Foundations of Stone is great. Durin's Way is wonderful. Like most of it, I both know how to navigate around in, and I enjoy doing so. So, yeah, Epic Volume 2 of the ones that I've seriously played so far, which is 2 through 4-ish. Cool. Neat question. Thank you. Okay. Okay. That's not what I was trying to do. I tried to copy this. Okay. I can confirm that Gescheitert is correctly spelled in here. Thank you, Tellurian. Z also agrees that Mines of Moria was a wonderful expansion pack. I agree. Okay. So we have the need for these things to match up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring down this and go German and French. And what we want to see, and actually this might be an excuse for me to pull out a Lua pattern viewer. Because what we want to do is have a tester. And so if I bring out this pattern right here, we can see the point of this pattern is we're going to match exactly the field space, and then we're going to need to capture something, which is going to be in the range of 1 to 4, and then literal capture of referee says, quote, quote, and then we're going to have the second capture of anything, and then score, exclamation point, matches the character literally, excellent, and then allows to match the pattern 1 or more times. Interesting. Was I seeing more than one? Oh yes, I am seeing more than one. Why do this? Because sometimes they do 2 and sometimes they do 3 Standing Stone games! Or possibly Turbine! Okay, so that's why I did 1 or more exclamation points, because sometimes it's 2 and sometimes it's 3. Fantastic. Oh, sometimes it's 1. Jeepus. Well, this is why we capture samples. Hmm. So this is the only expansion pack that they were slightly disappointed with was SOM, which I believe is Mirkwood. LOTRO Wiki expansions. Siege of Mirkwood. Yeah. I actually really enjoyed Mirkwood as well, but I totally get that it can feel a little oppressive just being underneath the gloom of those trees for a whole expansion. Or, I mean, you have Dunland over on the west side, but still. Um, but I definitely was ready for Rise of Isengard by the end of that 6 months. Okay, so we understand what this pattern is doing, and is there a way to test it? I could have sworn I found a Lua pattern tester. Okay, so we have an example here of a random website that I pulled up. So let's go ahead and put this in here. And go ahead and put in both of the ones that I found. So he says it wasn't the gloominess, it was the design choices, lack of a new crafting tier, gear was harder to come by. That's fair. Okay, so what we can see here is, let's go ahead and do a single string. So we can see that it matches, and it thinks that we're going to pull out the number 3 and Steelbeak's score. So that's great. What we want to do then is look at the Flying Feathers. It matches. We're going to pull out Flying Feathers as the team there. Cool. Everything's going great. So what we want to do is to devise 2 new patterns that will do the same thing, but for first German and then French. So for German, we can do the same thing for the Feld. Awesome. And then, is it D both times? I believe it is, and we don't think that's a part of the name. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and pull out Stahlschnabel and think to ourselves, I think we've got a pattern. And what we're going to do is go ahead and pull out the 2 that we're testing against. What's going on? Okay, it matches, but you're not giving me any captures. Why is that? Okay, let's break this back down. Okay, we still think that matches. I just refreshed the page in case there was some issue with that. Now, admittedly, I only just found this tool. This tool may not be perfect, but I was expecting a little less disappointment right away. We can see those matches there are working exactly as intended. Okay. Oh! That's gonna be a problem because that hyphen was causing problems. And if I'd been using the other tool, I would have seen that. Let's actually go ahead and pull that one back up. we would have seen that the hyphen space character matches the character literally. The hyphen as a quantifier allows to match the pattern 0 or more times. So that hyphen needs to be escaped. Perfect. But this is why we test things. So we're going to come on back here and test this again against these two inputs. There we go. We're matching the 3. We're matching the name of the team. Let's match the other one as well. Oh, of course. We still need to match the exclamation points 1 or more times. Because of course we do. There we go. We're matching the 3. We're matching the name of the team. Let's back up and grab the previous one again. And we're matching everything there as well. So we have fixed our regular expression because German included a hyphen here for the referee and the field that wasn't there in the English. So just got to keep that in mind. So he says, Siege of Mirkwood has a great epic story and locations, though. I would imagine for lots of people its legacy is the skirmishes. That's fair. I do enjoy the skirmishes of Siege of Mirkwood a lot. The instances, too, though. I think they did some really interesting stuff with the dungeons of Dol Guldur. It's such a different feeling, right? Like, yes, you do have a big battle at the end of it, but the rest of it, you're just skulking around trying not to get seen by the trolls. And it felt very different from some of the other instances of the era, and even just the Swords of Dol Guldur, I think it is, where you just have a single room and you run in and you just fight the waves from different sides. Oh, I am not going to find things here. That's the wrong window. Sword Hall, that's what it is. Sword Hall of Dol Guldur. So, yeah, I have a lot of affection for Sword Hall, for war pens, for dungeons, even for Barad Guldur a little, no, sorry, Sammath Gul a little bit. Barad Guldur, I have trouble getting a group of 12-ish people to run it on level for some of the challenges, so those are still outstanding in my deed log and my quest log, which makes me a little sad. All right, so we're going to move on to a French regular expression here, and we're going to try to use what we've learned to make it a little bit faster and better. Okay, so we want to match that field number. There's no hyphen this time, which is nice. And we want to go ahead and look at the team name, Bextrasure. Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and capture that team name as well. And remember that we want to get 1 or more exclamation points at the end. Okay, let's look at that in the analyzer, well, the tester, and test against our 2 known strings. Awesome, we see the field and the team name being matched there. Let's test the other one. Fantastic. And if we wanted to test different fields, we could say 1, 2, 3, or 4, and notice that 5 does not match. At that point, we do not have correct captures. Arthur says, Z says, remember when Rise of Isengard was out? Heisenberg's 5 was a huge meme, still is in lots of ways. Absolutely. Yes. Arthur, hopefully your preprocessing code has already normalized the non-breakable space in say in the French client. I'm not sure what you mean by preprocessor code in this, but you can see that Visual Studio Code here is highlighting that these spaces are different than the standard space ASCII character. And so, yes, it is noticing that these spaces are different and will encode them differently in the Unicode. And on my machine that works, that is sufficient to do it. But these could be broken out into explicit character codes if we needed to. And there's a mix of that because some of the older stuff in here does do that. So we can see here where we have some character codes instead of inline characters. If it works, I really like the inline stuff though because it means you can take text out of the game, copied out of the game, search for it here, and actually find it. Okay, so we have successfully tested this regular expression, so it's time to move on to the next one. Hobnanigans game end. We're looking for a someone wins expression. So let's come on into the English. Flying feathers win. Good enough. And then we're going to come on in to... actually, do I have a Steelbeaks win? Probably not. Whoever was playing really liked red. Nope. That's okay. We'll assume that it's close enough. Alright, so we are looking for 103300 victory! And in the German, we are looking for the same. Fantastic. Haben gewonnen. Okay, and from this, we're going to go ahead and extrapolate two new patterns. One for the German and one for the French. And we'll go ahead and compare against these scene bits. So, Subjector, we're going to take what we've learned and make sure that this hyphen is escaped. We're going to go ahead and capture the number of the field. And we're going to capture the team name and accept one or more exclamation points. So, what does that look like? If we come on into the explainer, all right, literal, 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 capture group, literal, capture group, literal, one or more exclamation points, and literal quotes. Perfect. So let's bring this in. And the actual observed text, we can see matches and produces two capture groups, the three and the field number and the name of the team. Perfect. Let's do the same thing with the French. So we can see we need to do the capture group here. Great. And Volantes. Yeah. Interesting. Yep, there's a another one of the non-breaking spaces there. That's okay. So what we want to do is double check ourselves in the analyzer. And we have some literal characters. We have the capture, more literal, another capture. Or, oh, we forgot the exclamation point, one or more of. Okay, so we're going to retake this into the tester. And from here, we're going to go ahead and grab the scene string and see that we do capture the field number and the team name. Perfect. So, too bad I didn't get the other team winning, but I think it's probably going to be pretty consistent. The biggest thing to watch out for, that changing number of exclamation points. Turbine! But our pattern can adapt to that, can be prepared for that. Okay, so we have a game end pattern for each of the three languages. All right, 6 minutes left in the game, and then 2 minutes left in the game. We need both of these. So we're going to go ahead and grab one of those. You can see 10:09:01. So 10:09:01. Still 6 minutes game time remaining. Fantastic. And then the French version. 10:09:01. Great. And you know, while we're at it, let's go ahead and grab the examples of the other. So 2 minutes left in the game. And then in the German, where was this? This was 10.13.01. Great. Ideally, it's going to look very similar, but no guarantee of that. Okay, 10.13.01. Great. Okay, so, we can actually double check ourselves when we're doing this and test against the English as well. Now I've seen it working, but it doesn't hurt to just demonstrate how this should work. Okay, so we can see we're capturing which field we're on. We can see field 3, that gets captured. That's great, and it's a match. This is a simpler string because it does not have a team name in it. It only varies in the referee number, therefore the field number, in theory. Now, I didn't get a chance to test this on every field. It's always possible there's minor discrepancies there that we'll have to account for. But it's a starting point. So we're going to go ahead and spin off a French and German version of each of these. Okay, and for the first one, we can see a starting point. We do have a hyphen in there, so we're going to have to escape that. We've got our field number, and everything else looks like it should be constant. Patina Bowen says, "Hail, hello!" And I'll tell you what, this one is a little simpler, so let's go ahead and do both of them at the same time. We can capture the field number here, and everything else looks like it should be constant. Now, let's be sure of that. Let's pop this into the analyzer, and we can see literal, literal, literal. In fact, literally. We can see that. We can see we're capturing the group for the field, and then the rest is literally, oh, we have a dot. Hang on. We do have a dot. We do not mean to have a dot there. So we're going to go ahead and recopy this pattern, repaste it, and now we have literal, literal, literal. We capture the field number, and the rest of this is literal. So that's exactly what we want. We just want straight up everything except the field number is literal. And now we can test this with the text that we saw in game. Let's get the German one here. And we can see it matches, and we can extract the field number. Awesome. Now let's do the same thing for the French. Well, let's bring it on into the explainer. We have literal, capture, and literal. Perfect. Love it. Oh, one thing. I'm being bad about those exclamation points. Do I think it would be ever different? I don't know, but we can do one or more exclamation points with no loss of generality here. So we're going to go ahead and come on into the tester and test against the string that we did see. And we can see it matches, and we can extract the field number. Perfect. Let's move on to 2 minutes left in the game. So we're going to go ahead and remember our mistake here. So we have a period that we want to escape. We have a hyphen we want to escape, and we need to go ahead and extract that field number. So all of that together, let's bring it into the explainer. Make sure we didn't miss anything else. And search for literally, everything is literally except for the capture group. That's what we want to see. In the tester, we can come on in and test against the string that we did see. And we can see everything is good. If we change the field number, everything remains good, unless that field exceeds 5. That's odd. I want to say that this is a bug in the actual pattern tester viewer, though. It's highlighting something it shouldn't. That's my theory. Okay. Cool. So let's go to the French side of things. We're going to pull down the starting one and then capture an arbitrary field value between 1 and 4 and make sure that we can accept more than one exclamation point if there's inconsistencies in that between fields. And then we want to see, again, literally, capture the group, literally, and then an arbitrary number of exclamation points, one or greater. And then the literal two single quotes. Great. Let's go ahead and give it a test. We're going to go ahead and plug in the text that we did see. Awesome. Now that's interesting. The French spells out in text the number of minutes when there's 2 minutes remaining, but not when there's 6 minutes remaining. That's the kind of thing that makes me go, huh, and makes me, if I were a language coordinator for this and I had the time and attention, I might be like, hey, did you mean to do that? Is that normal in French? What's going on here? And it might be normal in French. We actually do that in English here, where we spelled out 6 and 2, but in German, it's the digit 6. Well, German and French is digit 6, but only in German is it 2. Those are oddities, but not worth getting worried about. Okay, we have German and French versions for each of these strings here. Awesome. So, it is possibly worth asking, do we have the names of the teams correct? And to answer this, let's come on into the German file and see, do we find this? It certainly seems like we would expect it to be something different. Joost thinks that in proper German, you would spell them out, numbers 1 through 12, and then switch into ciphers starting with 13, digits starting with 13. And good evening, Joost. Yeah, those kind of localization things, like in English, I feel like there are informal rules, or at least not really explicitly stated rules. And there are probably style guides that help solidify this. Like if you're following different style guides, they'll say when to spell it out, when to just use the digit. But yeah, I feel like 1 through 10 would be pretty common to do spelled out, but I don't know that it would be weird. Like if this said 2 minutes left in the game, I guess that feels slightly does it feel informal? Does it feel wrong? Would I even notice it? Referee says 2 minutes left in the game. 32 minutes left in the game. 32 minutes left in the game. I don't know. But I know some languages, or at least some speakers of some languages, have a little bit more firm ideas of where that trade-off is, where you stop using spelled-out versions of the words and you switch to just the digits. Okay. So, a thing that I'm worried about is that the names of the teams here, especially this quote here, this single quote, is not right. And I think where I would go next is the quest names, where we pick these up. Because it's probably going to be the quest begin text, where we pick up the name of the team that is playing. So, here's where we'll get the team. Team's not nil. Set Hobnanigans team of team. Yeah, says, with these rules, well, languages are living things. There are rules for academic writing or for authoring books. So, well, when I say rules, I mean, so there's definitely the descriptive versus prescriptive side of linguistics, right? And So style guides are definitely a prescriptive way of saying like this is what we currently consider right, and those can be living documents as well. But generally, I would hope that a style guide says this is what's normal because that was what normal when they were written, or that was the level of formality that they were looking for when they were written. Um, you got me curious though. Okay, so looking at a style guide. Where are we? Somewhere. Follow the guidelines outlined in the AP style book. We prefer to spell out numbers 1 through 9 and use numerals for number 10 and greater. This is true of ordinals as well. Spell out 1st to 9th and then capture 10th or greater with numerals. Fascinating. And I could believe that lots of people kind of follow this guide or this style of writing in English when they're doing more formal English. Um, I'd have to look back at things that I have written to figure out if I actually, use that as an internal way of doing things. Trillian says, I think there are many exceptions. For instance, titles of movies you might not read Scary Movie 2 or Scary Movie Zwei written out. That's funny. Well, you got me curious what the title of it there was, too. Okay, just Scary Movie 2. Okay. Neat. So we're setting the Hobnanigans team, and when we set that .team value, we are checking against these team names. And so this needs to be correct as far as the quest assigned is concerned. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to move all these other things off screen right now because I think we've done what we needed to do with them for the moment. And I'm going to... Let's see. New quest, Game of Hobnanigans. I'm going to look for that in the LOTRO companion data dump in just a moment. So let me go ahead and add that folder, and then I'll bring this on screen. Cool. So, new quest, Game of Hobnanigans. Please find that in places. Really? Oh. Stop searching as a regex. Please. I don't know what colon does, but it can't be good. Oh, of course. Don't include the new quest text. Okay. So, quests. We can see in the DE file. Awesome. I also want the EN file, and I also want the FR file. Actually, is this the right place for, are we in the labels? I don't think we're in the labels. So let's come on up here. We want to go into the, I think they're labels. Oh no, of course. This is a slightly modified version. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this out into this area. Because again, I love samples. Okay, in the German version, and so 133, is that 133? Just making sure, and is that? Yes, it is. Okay, so what we also want is the other Game of Hobnanigans, which is Steelbeaks. Now that happens to be the next number. Well, that was strange. I clicked on the wrong thing. So we want Steelbeaks as well. That's going to be 34. 34, awesome. just for consistency, I'm trying to keep the order of the languages the same. All right, and in FR, we want 34 as well. That is here. Awesome. And we're going to bring that in. So what we want to do is make sure that this is consistently used as the team name down here. We can see it is. And that this is consistently used. So we can see it in these other places. Well, we can see it for they scored. But what we want to have is down here, we need that quote to be fixed. There we go. Now we can see it's used in a couple different places. So that's better consistency on the French team name there. Julian thinks, on the number thing, it would feel odd to me to do a countdown from 20 down to 1 and to switch over to writing it textually at the 12 point. And he was obviously, you also don't write between 9 and 13, but spelling out the 13. The countdown is a mixed case. Movie titles are an exception. They're not full sentences. Yo says, case in point, take the German edition of The Lord of the Rings, find a sentence where low numbers are written with numbers rather than spelled out. I do have the Dutch version of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but I don't have the German version, so I will have to leave you to doing that. Okay. So what else do we have? Hobnanigans announcements. We have these here. And the names of the quests for both of these. So if we want to now, we can go ahead and run. This isn't the full announcement, but it's a good start. So we could kind of fake it up if we wanted to, like that. But we have the pattern matching for those. We have the pattern matching for active play, points scored, team wins. Fantastic. We've double checked the name of the different teams. Okay. And we have lookup tables to go back and forth between them. And then finally, we have some text for the UI itself. And let's come take a look at that. So, oh, that's not where I was trying to go. The festival buddy icon, there we go. So on this UI here, we have field. So we can kind of backtrack and say, okay, what is this in the other languages in other announcements? So if we, fine, I won't overwrite the same thing. Thank you. Okay, so if we look for field in other places, we can see field referee says. So I think we can realistically say Feld is a good German word to use in place of field here. French. What about French? Terrain is plausible. We see terrain a lot. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and go with terrain for field. None. Oh, I think we're done with this window. So, when you are not on a field, what does that look like? I'm going to go ahead and actually populate out these other ones here. Yeah, Hios says, get back on topic. As I'm thinking about it, one could actually argue that the messages in the game with those numbers are better game design. It's easier to glance at the 2-minute warning and see that it's 2 minutes than reading Zwei between other words. Absolutely. I could very much see that point. Okay, so if we were going... oops. If we were going from English to German, and we wanted to indicate that we were... No, go away. That we were not on a field. Google Translate, without any context, would say that that is kinds and kindness. We've got some German people in chat. How would you feel about that if that was kindness?
Feld, keines.
Yeah, maybe. And then the corresponding French, if we just wanted to go with a naive translation, maybe it's that. I don't know. I've got Google Translate open on the other screen here. Julian says, sounds good to me. Now, this is an example where, since I don't actually have a good sense of what it is, we can leave it blank. And then if any French people want to contribute better translations, they can either modify it themselves or they can send it in to me, and that works too. Fantastic. Hill says it's Das Feld in German. It kind of sounds right. Yeah, this is a place where I definitely fall down because I know there's ways to change word endings in German that are beyond my comprehension at the moment. So, glad to have people looking it over. Need quest. So, this is a case where you need to go pick up the quest. Need quest. Well, Google would love me to use this translation for German, which just seems suspect. For one thing, is the German word for quest quest? Well, what was it up here? Aufgabe. Oh, interesting. I don't know. How does that look to a German speaker?
Brauche Aufgabe.
And so we can do the same thing. We can put in a blank French so that it can be improved later. Hill says, let me check in the German client. I'm pretty sure it is Aufgabe in the German client because that's what you see when you fail or pick up a quest, neue Aufgabe. So actually, I'll go ahead and pull the quest here. Julian says, seems okay and is shorter than benötige Aufgabe. I don't know. How does that look? Hill says, I've played in English since 2009. Julian says, that seems more slang but usable. It doesn't need to be shorter. We could definitely bring in Benotica. All right, probably. I say that. Where do we figure out the language? How do we change the language? Let's assume it's in globals. Lang. Client lang equals that. All right, client lang equals German. So we're going to go ahead and restart this. Did I not save the strings? I might not have saved the strings. Okay, I was wrong. That thing is not wide enough yet. What are we calling this thing? That is the need quest. All right. Need quest. So that's going into the Hobnanigans status. Let's look at the background color here, because I don't know how big that thing is, but let's see if we can make it bigger. It is about as wide as it can get, but we could go take a look at what other options we have here. Bold 30 is also an option. And then it would fit. So that's actually a thing that we can do if client lang, if client lang equals German, then do that, else set it to 36, and I think that is still valid. Yeah. So in here, let's go ahead and get rid of that background color though. He also thinks that quest benötigt would also work here. Could do. Though I will say Aufgabe is the in-game term for quest, so yeah. Yeah, Aufgabe benötigt. So that could be a thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that being said, yeah, sticking to Aufgabe, since that's the in-game term, I like to match the in-game terms where possible, even if they are maybe a little less than optimal. Okay, so we want a German one for waiting for start. And we want a German one for game over. And we can see what these are. Once you have your quest, so for instance, let's go ahead and start here. Oh, these are only doing the English one. Let's make a to-do item. Make debug work with other languages. Cool. Okay. However, waiting is when we see we've picked up the quest, but we're waiting for the game to begin, as far as we can tell. Right here. So Vartan, Michigan. What do we think about that? Varta? Waiting for kickoff. I like Telerian's longer text. I don't know if it'll fit, but I'm happy to find out. I mean, that's a good point. Waiting for kickoff is probably better in English as well. But okay, so unfortunately, I'll need to double check to see if that will fit. It might. Actually, I can double check it if we just swap it in for this one. Let's go ahead and put German back. All right. Yeah, with the reduction in size for the German status texts, that looks like it fits. All right, yeah. Nice. So we're going to go ahead and bring that on down. Is that what we had? Yep. Nice. And then finally, the game over. Spiel vorbei? How do we feel about that? Oh, that's a good question. Is it game or round? What do we have? In the game, it is definitely game. All right, and just to see that again, before we fix the debugging. Spiel vorbei. Okay, awesome. All right, so we're not going to bother with the French right now until we get a French speaker to help us with that. But we do have a place for them to happen. That's Farmer's Fair. Don't need to worry about that. Awesome. So if we search for Hobnanigans, otherwise other places in here. The other question I have is it Hobnanigans in German as well? All right, fireworks announcer, you are too much. Game of Hobnanigans, yep. Okay, so just French who has renamed it. So I think it would be reasonable in French to go ahead and call it chicken chasing. Clarion is quoting something that I assume is a long time ago football. Okay. Cool. So we've fixed that. I mean, fixed, quote unquote. And we're good with the Hobnanigans announcements. So that's really good. We've worked through, hopefully, all the things that would stop Hobnanigans from working on French and German clients as well as it does on English, which is to say reasonably well. However, let's go ahead and get some code committed and then look at how to make it so the debug window respects the current language and feeds in strings that correspond. So we're going to go ahead and come on in here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and, do this one separately. Make font smaller for German Hobnanigans statuses. Okay, we're going to go ahead and commit that. And then updated French and German strings for Hobnanigans. Cool. So just to review what we have here. We've got the French name for Hobnanigans. Great. We've got samples of quest names. And we've got the quest end text, so we should be able to tell that you've dropped the quest. We've got active play beginning for German and French. We've got the teams scoring for German and French. We've got the winning text for German and French. We have 6 minutes and 2 minutes left in the game, also for German and French. And we've corrected the apostrophe in the name of the steel beaks. Fantastic. And the UI stuff. And this doesn't matter for matching text in chat. So it's okay if it's, not perfect. The chat matching text has to match exactly. He also asks, why do I prefer fork over VS Code's built-in GitHub support for managing commits / branches / GitHub functionality? For one thing, I'm just more... I'm used to using fork as a GitHub manager when I'm doing stuff in multiple editing environments. So Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, or Notepad. It works no matter what I'm doing. And so I learned it once and I can reuse it over and over. And yeah, secondly, I mean, Visual Studio Code is neat and it's a fine tool for doing Lua editing, especially for LOTRO because we have Lunar Water's LOTRO API extension. But you can do all this in Notepad. You can do all this in Sublime Text. You can do all this on a Mac, maybe. Right? Like the environment. I don't want to feel too tied to Visual Studio Code. If there's another tool that does Lua editing better, I don't want to feel like I have too many hurdles to switching. And I guess the third reason would be ignorance of Visual Studio Code's integrations with GitHub. I haven't really played around with it at all, so maybe it's the best thing ever, and I'm sure it's good. But I'm willing to let it do such things to tell me, this file's changed. Like we can see this file's been modified. Obviously, the integrations are there. I'm just not using them for the commits and whatnot. But yeah, mostly I'm very used to having a different program for each kind of silo. Like this is source control. This is my GUI or my editor. This is whatever. I don't know. I don't know that I have good reasons. I can just sort of explain my thought process there. It says I only write code on Windows when I write LOTRO plugin code. The rest happens on other machines. He also says, the tool you know how to use is usually faster than the better new tool coming from somewhere else. Yeah, that could definitely be it. Okay, so which is why I'm doing my comparisons. I'm not doing them inside the thing that is also showing me comparisons. I'm using Beyond Compare because it is a tool I know better. Okay, so yes, we have all these texts here. Filled quest. We think the French one does not use the English word failed here, so I've gone ahead and fixed that as well. That'll be easier to test, though with Midsummer coming up, we'll be able to fill some tests in every language if we want to. Okay, lovely. I'm going to say that's a great commit. We're going to go ahead and commit that. Yes. Let's go ahead and play around with that other idea here, though. Oh, we are kind of running a little long. We might be able to do it pretty fast, though. Let's look at how the options window does these debug things. And we're going to look for Hobnanigans. Okay, so we can see we just send specific text, and now that we have text for alternate text for everything, this might actually be a little bit easier. So if we give ourselves a place, local debug text equals a new table, and if we go ahead and say we're going to call this start field 2, and that's going to be a table, and in here we have English equals, and if we have German equals, and if we have French equals, then we should be able to hoist up this value here into the English. But then we should be able to go back into our strings file. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and make this big enough to have both of them on screen at the same time. And what we want to do is get the German sample quest. No, we can do this. Okay. So, new Aufgabe, Hobnanigans, and we want Feld 2, or 2, sorry. And we want the Fliegende Vettern. Okay. So, and in the French, we want to go ahead and hoist that on over, and we're just undoing that pattern matching change that we made before. So, terrain 2, and then here we need to bring back Plumes Volantes. Okay, so that's flying feathers. So all of that hopefully lets us go ahead and say we actually want this to be debug text of, and we're going to go ahead and pass start field 2, and then we're going to pass in client lang, and just call it a day. So let's take a look at that. So we've only made field 2 better, maybe. But we're in German right now. So if we go ahead and say start, hey, we are definitely Warte off on Piff. And that is for the flying feathers. He also says, wait, do I see atypical white space in French strings from the game again? Well, I don't know if they are atypical, but definitely there are non-visible differences in spaces in many of the French strings. Or the hyphens, and this is true in German as well. The German hyphen here, that is not a standard hyphen. As you can tell, because Visual Studio Code has highlighted it to point out that it is not standard. So that is U 2013, which could be confused with U2D. It's not that it's not standard. It's just it does not match the sort of the default ASCII hyphen that is used in source code, which is why Visual Studio Code wants us to know about it. So, do I see atypical hyphens in German strings? No, it's just it's normal for German. The spaces are normal for French, maybe. I don't actually know why they have such an intermix of breaking and non-breaking spaces for the French strings. It's presumably intentional, but it's very strange seeming to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love me some non-breaking spaces in the right environment, but yeah, I don't know. It is not something I get. Okay, so we have a need for that kind of thing for each of these buttons, basically. For each of these buttons, we want to sub in the appropriate thing. Now, the good news is, if we want to be lazy, we can just accidentally overwrite everything by pressing the wrong key. If we want to be lazy, start field 3 is just going to be start field 3, and then each of these is just going to be 3. Because we do not have to be elegant in our debug code. Normally this doesn't get run at all. So if we come on down here and we're looking for the starting and new quest, oh, that's the other team. Cool, start stop on field 2. Fantastic. Okay, so we can go ahead and take that and start field 3 quest. Start field 3 quest FF. Great. We can see it would be helpful to be able to differentiate between flying feathers and steel beaks in these tables. Well, easy enough to do. Okay, so each of those places that was referencing this, we just need to fix that. So this is the FF, so we're going to go ahead and do .ff, and we'll just scooch on down to the other one, and that is also .ff. So that's a quick little fix there. But we do need to go ahead for the Steel Beast versions of that. Each of these places, Game of Hobnanigans, Steel Beaks. Oh, that's interesting. Does this not have the field name? Oh. Hang on a second. Okay. To do. French. Field 1 isn't included in the quest name. As far as I can tell. Now that actually might be true overall. All languages? I don't see field 1. And that is a problem. It's a problem we're going to have to come back to later, though. Okay, all languages. Bug. And I assume flying feathers is the same. Yep. So, we can actually surmount this with a slightly different tactic, though. We have been using pattern matching, and I've actually been leaning further and further away from pattern matching the more I've been doing things like this. We've been doing these pattern matching to say, you know, we're trying to strip out the field number and the team, right? But we can just say that a game, if we see this text in each of the 3 versions of it, in German, French, and English, if we see this, then we are on field 4 and we are flying feathers. Like, we can hardcode this in differently. We actually see that in the, I want to say the fireworks, which definitely, I think, well, actually, no, I don't know. But I think the fireworks came afterward. So fireworks. Yeah, there we go. So we encode this in the fireworks. Just, you know, when you see this text, it is blue yes, and that was all I really needed. Is it's blue yes or it's, you know, all but blue. You know, blue no. And you can do that for each of the 3 languages, English, French, and German, and just say if it is exactly this thing, including that new line character at the end, just you can do an exact equality. You don't need to invoke patterns at all. Then it means this thing that's hard-coded. And since we don't actually need a bunch of different... now, the one thing I will say is, because the number of exclamation points can apparently vary, we will need to see evidences of those in the wild in order to be really confident, or at least maybe do a pattern where the exclamation points is the only thing that's a variable. I don't know. Yeah, we'll need to care about that maybe. But if we can see examples of each of these in the wild, or possibly in, you know, data dumps or whatever, then we can just do a straight up match that way instead of having to kind of sort out, oh, what field is it? We just don't know. We can know. But maybe move to straight up, maybe move to storing each possibility and encoding the result, field, team, etc. into the value of that table entry. See fireworks. That's probably the right path forward. If we can get samples of each of these that we can rely on, then we can stop doing pattern matching and just go to straight up equality, which is almost certainly faster. Just going character by character through a string is almost certainly going to be faster than doing any sort of pattern matching. But even though speed's not an issue, but it's a nice side benefit. Okay, so in the options window, new game of Hobnanigans, steel beaks, fine. Then we have the German for that, and we have the French for that. And we can do the this one down here at the same time. Okay, so we have field 2s, field 3s for each of the two teams. Great. So we can bring that on down to each of the starts. So start, here's the next one. This is a start to but steel beaks. Great. Moving on to the next one that has start in it. There we go. So this is a start field 3 steel beaks. Great. Let's take a look at that. So we should still be in the German, and we are. Coming on in here, we should be able to start field 2. We should be able to start field 3. We can't because we've already started field 2. Should get those stops in there so that I can actually toggle between them. Okay, so failed. Let's come on in here. So we need a stop field, but it's going to be formatted pretty similarly. So we're going to come up here, and it's going to be stop field 2. And in each of these, we're going to, again, backtrack from these patterns. Okay, so that is field 2, and we're going to go ahead and pull it on down to here as well. And then we need each of the team names. But we'll go ahead and get the other ones here first. Okay. Same thing. We want to go ahead and pull down the field number, which is 2. And then we're going to go ahead and pull in the team names. Fliegen and Fernden. Oh. Flying Feathers. Fliegen and Fernden. Oh. Can't be Flying Feathers there, can it? Well, I should have had the other stop field. Oh well. Okay, so having that, we're going to go ahead, maybe this has more in common here, so I think that's probably the right order. Cool, we're going to go ahead and stop field 3. Failed a game of that, field 3, and here, we're just going to go ahead and use that, find replace. Okay, so at that point we can go ahead and swap in these things. So we're going to take that start field and we want to go for stop. And in stop field, it's going to be very much the same. Stop field 2, Flying Feathers, client lang, great. Any other stops? Of course. Steel beaks. Nope. Alright, so that's a steel beaks. There should be 2 more then. We should have the stop field for flying feathers for 3. And finally, for 3 steel beaks. Awesome. So let's take a look at that. If we come on in here, we can now start the field 2 and stop the field 2 and start it with steel beaks and stop, steel beaks and stop, start and stop. Good. So field 3, yep, and stop, field 3 and stop. Great. So that gives us all of the variations here for 2 and 3. Now, we could take it one step further and be able to fill in which field we're doing this on, and actually be creating these strings on the fly. But there's a certain amount of how much is it worth doing this, right? So we're going to go ahead and not worry about that. We're going to come in and say, okay, we have debug text dot. We're using that. Great. Start and stop on each of those. Great. Now the game so the game actually starting. All right. So we need to start game 2 and start game 3. Start game 2 equals, and this one does not matter for teams, which is why the game start. It's generic. It has landed, but we have field-specific stops. So we actually just need start game. And for that, I'm just going to copy English, French, and German here, and then delete all the contents. Cool. But we also need stop of each of the fields. And we don't need team-specific. So we can stop game 2, and we can stop game 3. Okay. So let's do all of that in one go. All right, the game hen has landed on the field. Great. Oh, never mind. It is field specific. What's going on here? Oh, game 2 and game 3, of course. Oh, yep. Okay, so start game 2. Well, be prepared to make mistakes. Feels like a good motto for writing plugins. All right, so we've got all of our generic strings for 2 and for 3. And now we can come on in and actually just replace those. 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. I do not expect to make any other changes. The rest of this... I was just realizing that any place where I left in a % sign is going to cause us some problems because those were for the pattern matching. So I'm just going to come in and fix those here. Okay. Probably would have been just as well to be copying these from the observed text instead of the pattern matching, but oh well. All right, so we have start game 2, and now we can go ahead and duplicate this to start game 3. And each of these stop games is going to need to be under a flying feathers or a steel beaks entry, of course, because you stop by a team winning. So that's going to be SB. And then this is going to be stop game under flying feathers. And this is going to be steel beaks. Okay. Fantastic. So close to being done. I would like to finish this quickly, though, because bedtime is calling. Okay, so we have not updated the start game 3. So field 3, and field 3. Fantastic. And let's go ahead and get these stop games done for each of the teams. Well, that's embarrassing. That's not the right text. Okay. So for the stopping the game, we need something that looks like this. And yes, I'm going to remember to actually copy from the right place. I am the arbiter, I know the score. And then once this is done, so this is field. This is actually already set up for field 3. So let's fix everything else, and then we can fix the field number after we've copied that off to 3. So we need the names of the teams. We have the flying feathers. We need the steel beaks for over here. Okay, so that's good. And then we're going to go ahead and copy that over to stop game 3. And this now needs to become 2. So we'll just do a quick little find replace. And that's stop game 2. Okay, so did we save it? I think we saved it. Let's come on in here. And we have a start. And game 2 can start. It cannot. We didn't actually start using these things. Excellent. Let's come on down here. And you know what? View, layout, split down. Thank you. Yes. Okay, so we need to start game 2. And so that's going to look like this. So this is going to be a start game 2. And that's it. And we also can do start game 3 like that. Okay, next up are the stops. So we need stop game 2. And we're going to go ahead and do FF. And then same thing for the steel beaks. SB. Okay. And then for 3, we need to stop game 3. And stop game 3 for the steel beaks. Okay. So, problem. Fantastic. 1151. I have done a problem. Might actually be easier, though, with this kind of an error, to come on in and check out the changes somewhere, because I feel like I killed an end accidentally. Okay, I think then it was going to be around here. Yes, okay. So what's going on here? Miss corresponding end, yeah, I could see that being a problem. There we go. So that was 722. Why didn't I see this? 722. And why is and sharing the same line as those things? That's not good. But it would explain it. Okay, and we see that, and then, and let's give that a try then. Awesome. Yep, killed some ends. So let's come on in, starting a game on a field. Game start. Still not working. Okay, let's take a look. All right, so begin game. So the start is start game 3. Yeah, let's go back to start game 2. Start game. Yeah. So field to referee says the game hand has landed on the field. Begin play. So what's going on here? Why are we not getting what we're supposed to? Well, we still have our Lua pattern tester. Let's figure that out. What am I passing? I'm passing this. Okay, it should be okay. Let's check the German version. Okay. We can see there's a match, but we're not getting the field out of this. Why not? What does filter quest do? We're passing that into find, yes. Yeah, what am I missing here? Lots of literal matches. That's good. Wait. Yeah, okay. We need a escape on that active play pattern for German because that hyphen is no good. This is why we test things. Alright, start and start. Nope, still. Did I save? Thought I saved. Okay. What else am I missing? Okay, it's actually seeing it now. That's good. Everything is saved? Okay. Okay, field 2 quest. Yep. What's going on? Turbine.shell.writeLine filtering on message. See message. Okay, so we can see filtering on message, awesome. And then filtering on this message. This is just what we got. And if we take that to the pattern matcher. Cool. All right, so that may actually be showing an error somewhere else because that looks like it should be okay. So how do we look at this? So what we want to do is kind of follow through. If select festival is Hobnanigans, then we want to go ahead and call this handle Hobnanigans chat. Okay, so we are checking on things. So if we don't think it's active, then we're looking for that starting quest. Otherwise, we are looking for... Oh, hang on. Is it not a chat? Surely it's a chat. What is that? Oh, that's the quest. Okay, so we got to be in the chat area. Are we on the chat area? I did not even think about the difference between filter say and filter quest because it had been correct so far. But yes, all these are filter and quest, but we only look at things in the proper context. And so when the referee is saying things, we have to be looking at filter say instead of filter quest. So that's going to just trip us up because none of these things happen in the quest channel, and so we will not find them this way. So just swapping out all those filter quest to filter say should actually just make all of this work. He said confidently. All right, so we start the quest. Awesome. Game starts. We can see the time going here. Now, we're on field 2, so stopping on another field should not matter. But we can see Fliegen and Furch, Fadern would end there. Oh, yeah, we got to start, and stop. Cool. We don't have the ability to score things yet. But we can see the field 3 stuff does not affect us until we pick up the field 3 quest, and then we can start and stop, start and stop. Okay, all of those are working now. We just need to worry about the score, advancing time, and then we are done. Okay, so the chat logger, right line, we do not need that right now. Okay, so begin end game, oh that's good. All right, scoring. So we need scoring on different fields for different, so score 2 equals, and yeah, 2 and 3 could just be subtables. It's fine to do it either way. So we want Steelbeak score. All right, so cool. We need German and French. Swap those in. Fantastic. And then we need the same for the steel beaks. Those were the steel beaks. We need that for the flying feathers. Okay. This is all technically for field 3 though, so let's go ahead and duplicate that off. Whoopsie. Wrong key there. So score 3, and then in score 2, we can go ahead and fix that. These 3s can go ahead and become 2s. Flying feathers, steel beaks, good. So all of our scoring is great, and we're just left with advancing time. So let's go ahead and do the scores first. So we're filtering say, doing that correctly, and what we want to do is, for each of these, we want to instead filter say on this. So it's going to be score 2.ff. That's our starting point. And this is score 3ff. This is score 2 steel beaks. And this should be score 3 for steel beaks. All right. All that's great. Now we have time-specific values. Let's go ahead and just do all these. These bypass any processing. Probably not perfect idea, but at the time I'm sure it made sense. So we should be able to test all of these now. So if we start on 2 and the game starts, we can go ahead and score. Nope, we cannot. Oh, hey. Steel Beaks works. Flying Feathers does not. Let's take a look at Flying Feathers. Okay, so score. Points scored. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this into our Lua pattern tester and take what we're actually passing in for the German. Okay, everything looks good so far. Let's scroll back up to this where we're calling it. Alright, so that is 2FF. So let's turn this back on, this debug. That's why I didn't delete it. Starting on 2, the game has started, and Steel Beaks can score on 2. Oh, we're not filtering on say. Filtering quest on message. Alright, we need a filter say. Alright, filtering say on message. Alright, so we start that. We got the quest. Great. Game is starting. Filtering say on message. Great. We have the Steel Beaks. Okay. And we have this. So we're going to go ahead and pull out this message and see what's up with that. That is strange. Okay, so let's come on down to Hobnanigans. Handle say chat. This is where we care about this. Let's say we're actually. Let's make sure we're actually in the right place. So start. Okay, so we can see we're in the right place. Excellent. We probably think play is active, and so what we want to do is check this. Active play begin? No, that's if not. Play is active. Let's get points scored. Turbine.shell.writeLine, checking point scored. And let's go ahead and turbine.shell.writeLine and look at the values that came back from this. Okay, and again, this is the problem where we're doing the parsing thing. I want to stop doing that parsing. So next Hobnanigans, I think I'll just make a point to get every possible string and just make a table. It'll definitely be easier than all of the state stuff. Okay, so in here, start, and we can see handle that checking. Okay, that is team 2. That's Flicken Fernda. Okay, everything's good with the parsing there. So let's come take a look and see what happens there. So field number is not nil and team not nil. And the field number equals the current field number, yeah. Then team index equals Oh, yes, that's the problem. We can see the flying feathers. Something is wrong with that. Fliegen den Fernden. Fantastic. Is that true on the game accepts? Yeah, okay. So, Fliegen de Federn, or Fliegen den Federn. But fortunately, we're set up to accept both of these, because we can come on down here and say that the team name equals Flying Feathers, right? We don't actually care which of these we get. And same thing here, is it? Maybe not. But we're gonna, for parsing purposes, we're gonna say that is also a Flying Feathers, because we need it both ways. And again, once we get the exact strings, it won't matter. But we can at least score. Okay, so we can advance to 6 minutes, 2 minutes, and 10 seconds. No problem. And we can also do a game stop in favor on field 2 of the Steelbeaks. Hey! Okay. Oh, but field number team is 0-0. That's interesting. Let's take a look at that. For the ending quest, we need whoever wins. Sure, let's take a look at that. Whoops. We need the one from in the game. Okay. Oh, checking point scored. That's not right. Checking point scored. Okay, so we got nothing. Therefore, we are going to be checking for Hobnanigans game ends. If it's done, okay, we just show the game over text and that's it. Now this is where we would actually go through and do the 6 minute and 2 minute announcement texts. I think I'm okay not worrying about that right now. But still needed. Time remaining bypasses the parsing. Yeah, so we can deal with that later. Okay, so what we have is the ability to run this, in theory, arbitrarily. So if we come into our globals and set everything to French instead, a lot of the UI is still going to show up in English because we haven't done that. But what is going to work, we think, is all right. Well, it did not. Well, it's disappointing. I was really hoping it would work out of the gate. So if we come up to quest begins, we can take a look at that. Boy, do I need the French one, not the German one. Okay, fantastic. Just checking what we had in here. Okay, that's not correct. That's interesting. Okay, I gotta ask, why isn't it correct? Okay, so if this was this, and we were doing 2, and we were doing this for the team name, and we tried to start a Flying Feathers 2, it does not do it. Well, that's fascinating. Well, I think going through the exercise for German was probably enough, and I think this has probably gone on long enough. So, I'll make a note here. Still needed. Make sure French debug buttons can advance the state of play. I'm not sure what's happening, but we do have filtering the message, the quest here. So if I just do a search for that, I see that there. What I don't understand is why we're getting that. Now we should be in handle quest chat Hobnanigans tracker, yep. .shell.writeLine parsed debug of raw text and found team field number, and that is team field number. And I need to rep those with dump statements because I expect those are nil right now, and you cannot concatenate nil into a debug statement like this. Okay, so start. Hey, attempting to call debug a null value. I meant dump. Yep, nil. All right, well, out of curiosity, turbine.shell.writeLine pattern. What are we testing this against, really? All right, so the pattern is this. I'm going to go ahead and just copy that into our pattern checker. See if that helps anything. And the thing that we passed through it is this. And what I'm concerned about is that we've stumbled into an issue where pattern matching is fickle for other languages, and this is where the exact matching would come into play. Yeah, I think No, because this should... This should be working. Hang on. What if I take that out? Okay, we find that. What if I take that out? Okay. There's a hyphen. French. There's a hyphen in the text. There's a hyphen in the name of the game. Oh my goodness. There's a hyphen in Hobnanigans in French. Holy moly. Of course there is. Hey, look at that. Stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Now, one thing we're not seeing is we're not seeing the background highlighting here. And that's a problem because that's one of the main features there. Okay, so. Note, background of teams is not highlighting. Yes, as Geek says in chat, oh, it's fun stuff like hyphens when dealing with other languages. This is yet another reason why I'm just getting away from pattern matching, because it works fine enough in one language, and then you get all these other issues. And so if you can have an exhaustive list of the strings that you're looking for, all the better. Okay. This is a great place to stop banging my head against a wall this evening, where I can pick it up tomorrow and bang it even more effectively. So, now's a great time, if you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns, to get those into chat. But I think I'm going to start winding down here, rapidly approaching the time when I go to bed. Okay, so what have we learned? We've learned that having a debug system where you can put messages that you've seen from the real world or variations thereof through your chat processing system are invaluable. Each of these buttons could have gone straight to the underlying functionality, but by sending these messages into the chat system, we're testing the chat parsing itself. And as we've seen, that has been full of little misconceptions that I've made. And so actually saying, does this thing that should match actually match, is super important. In a more professional environment, I would be writing unit tests. I would have little tests of code that can be automatically run that confirm that when I try to do a thing, I get this result. And if I don't get the result, that is an error. So I would definitely be doing unit testing against all these known good inputs and making sure that a certain behavior happens. So this is my poor man's unit testing grid here, where I can do the same thing but without the unit test system. Now, can we do unit tests in LOTRO plugins? Kind of. We would probably need a button. Well, would we need a button? Because we can run code on startup. I think we could actually have a unit testing system in play. Like, if debug is enabled, then do unit tests. And that seems like it could be interesting. A problem with unit tests, in the real world too, not just in LOTRO, is that they're not great with user interfaces. You can do it, but it's not great. It's hard. It tends to be more fragile. It tends to be a lot of work to maintain them. But back-end stuff like this, where when we get this text, we should parse it this way, and it should be this is definitely something that should be automatable. And at least in development mode, we could do that. On the other hand, once it's working, it should stay working forever. So, it'd be an interesting thing to get unit testing working, though. Interesting. He also says, if they recall, there is some help for writing unit tests through import turbine.testing. Well, I'm game. Sometimes those things correlate to actual stuff. Oh, I don't have it here. Documents, plugins, turbine plugins. Not turbine plugins, sorry, just turbine. There's not a corresponding testing here. Oh, there is a testing here, though. Oh, okay. So turbine.testing is this whole folder, which is imported using the init.lua method. So what do we see when we get that? Unit test command equals a unit test command, and then turbine.shell.add command unit test. So you can just do /unit test. And then that would start this up. Oh, this is very interesting, Yost. Thank you. All right, so what's a unit test command do? Local runner, shell test runner, set verbose to true, run unit test by test name, executes a unit test. Okay, unit test. A table to contain all the unit test classes that have been created. All right, there's a test runner, there's test results, shell test runner. Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, I'm going to put a pin in that. I think I need to look at that more. Where can I write that down so I remember that that exists? Yes, I'm going to copy that into somewhere else so I can play around with it. Cool. Thank you for calling my attention to that. I might play around with that next time, actually. Let's add some unit tests for string parsing as a learning exercise. Okay. Neat. Yeah, yes, thank you for reminding me that that exists, assuming I ever knew. We're gonna play around with it, doing some of that, maybe just learning as we do on stream next time, because that's sort of the next step up. Is like you can run some code automatically, but how do you know which one succeeded, which one's failed? How do you visualize that? How do you manage larger amounts of unit code? And maybe there's a system here. Neat. And I like the idea of triggering it manually, because you could just have a button on your toolbar that's just like run your unit tests, and then any plugin that's registered them, maybe it runs them all. That'll be interesting to play around with. Yeah, neat. All right. Well, with that startling discovery, I think that's everything we are going to cover today. So, thank you all so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I hope to see you all here next week, where we will have Midsummer active. And we'll get to play around with that a little bit. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.